Monkey Kitchen Company, the hospitality startup behind the gourmet artisanal ice creamery Sucre de Terre, and Kaboom, a newly launched fast casual brand.
So, Avid was a really, really important part of us settling into Bombay. And so, last night when I was kind of, running through the presentation, I turned to my wife, I turned to Kanali and said, I mean, isn't this amazing? Like, even in your wildest dreams, would you imagine that just a couple of years later, we would have an opportunity to give back to this community that has given us so much? And she turns to me and says, honey, I've known you 9 years, we've been married for 8, you no longer feature in my wildest dreams. So, that sort of cut me down to size quite nicely, and I continued with my presentation. I'm not from the hospitality industry. I've worked in media all my life. I've had sort of a corporate background all my life, and I thought it would be really interesting to just kind of share 3 stories of the journey that I have been through. At this one time, I was flying back from London, and I remember this moment like super clearly, right? I remember it was yesterday. I was sitting on that airline seat. I was looking outside the window, and I had done well through my career, so I had a good package, so slightly large seat. Looking outside the window, and I could see my life ahead of me, right? I was going to land. There was going to be a fancy car that came pick me up. Took me to a reasonable sized home, and if I continued doing everything I was doing, within 3 years my airline seat would be bigger, I would land, the car would be bigger, and I would go to a home that would be even bigger. And then for another 5 years, maybe I'd have my own plane, and the car would be even bigger, and the home would be even bigger. You see, at that moment, I was doing I had everything that all my peers in business school, that all my well-wishers had told me that I should try to get. I was there, and I wanted to be anywhere but there. I wanted to be anywhere else. And I think that was the moment when I started realizing that there was something deep down inside me that wasn't quite right, and I had to begin discovering what it is that I really wanted to do. If you're not true to what you believe, the how you do it and the what you do will never be in sync. And we should keep telling our clients that, and I'd forgotten that myself. I'd forgotten that that actually translates to individuals as well. I mean, the best example is perhaps Martin Luther King. He had a core sense of belief of what America should be like in the 60s. And that is why people came in the hundreds of thousands to hear him speak that day in 1963. They didn't come to hear him say, I have a 5-point plan. Right? It wasn't the I have a 5-point plan speech. It was the I have a dream speech. He had a dream. He had an idea of what society should be like, and that's what he wanted to share, that's what he wanted to articulate. And the how and the what followed. But the first step over there was actually the why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And I think that's an important thing that we often forget, or we often realize halfway through our careers, that actually, while it's important to do the right things, the what, the how, it's important that that is perfectly in sync with the why and the what you believe. So that is the first story I really want you to take away from this. Dream first, plan later. It's very important to plan, very important to marry the profits with the passion. So do plan, but plan later. Dream first and follow your dreams. The second story is quite a fun one. It's called the evolution of ice. It's the evolution of the ice business. How many of you know the story of how the ice business has actually evolved? No? Okay, great. This is going to be super fun. Okay. So the evolution of ice, the story over here is about embracing technological changes. Ice was a natural resource, and so what would happen is when the lakes would freeze, typically fathers and sons would go with their horse carriages, they would carve out blocks of ice, they would put it onto the horse carriage, and then they would take it and sell it to consumers. Ice harvesting was the first generation of the ice business. Let's call it Ice 1.0. It was great because you actually had frozen water that you could put in other beverages, and that could make it more delicious. If you live sort of in the vicinity of a lake that used to freeze, fantastic, awesome. So ice 1.0, ice harvesting, first generation of the ice business. Then came the second generation, the ice factory. Man, did this change the way ice was consumed. You could now build, entrepreneurs could actually build a factory where they would make ice, and then they would actually send the ice off, again on the horse carriage, but they could send the ice off to consumers that lived in the area. And this dramatically changed adoption of ice. Even if you were in Mumbai, you could get ice. The actual first ice factory was at Lionsgate. So you could even be in Mumbai where there's no frozen lake, and you still had access to ice. And guess what? You didn't have to get ice in the winter. You could actually get it in the summer, and that's when you needed it the most. So, I mean, it was just fantastic. But this is not what actually led ice to the critical mass that we know of it today. What led to the critical mass of ice is ice 3.0. The space-age technology called the personal freezer. I've heard it called the PC, the personal chiller. But the personal freezer. It was only until, at that time, look at that, space-age technology. You've got these housewives with, like, in astronaut uniforms. This completely changed it. You see, and this is true for any industry when you look at it, right? Until you actually put the power in the hands of the consumers, and until you democratize production, an industry will not have the level of adoption that makes it ubiquitous. As simple as that. It was only ice 3.0 that made it ubiquitous. Now, why am I telling you this story? I mean, okay, fine, it's a great story. All of us here are foodies. We all use ice at some point. What does that have to do with us? Well, let's just see what's happening around us. Let's just see where capital is flowing at the moment. Uber. We all know Uber. World's largest taxi company, owns no cars. Facebook. Most popular media owner, creates no content. Alibaba. No inventory. Airbnb. No real estate. Who do you think benefits from an Uber?
Consumers.
Consumers? Absolutely. Consumers benefit from an Uber. Who else benefits? Taxi drivers. Have you guys spoken to a taxi driver since this whole Uber, Ola, funding war has started? You know how much taxi drivers are earning these days? 50,000 rupees a month. As a taxi driver, I earn 40 to 50,000 rupees a month. Why? Because money is being invested in platforms. Consumers are using platforms. And what happens is the consumers benefit, but also the individual producers benefit, the manufacturers, the service providers. At an individual level, they benefit. This is the potential of the internet that we studied in the 2000s. Food, the business model, is absolutely being disrupted. We are moving to a completely different technological change, and the people who are going to benefit from that are, of course, the consumers, because they get more choice, but also potential food entrepreneurs. Because now, as Robbie was saying, there's so many things that you need to worry about. There's so many things that you need to worry about when you're starting a restaurant. Do I pump in so much capital? Lakhs, crores of rupees that go into building a restaurant. How do you pilot? How do you pilot a concept? How do you pilot this Mexican concept? Now it's quite simple. You go onto Ola Chefs, you go onto Food Panda, you go onto Meals on Wheels, and you actually do pilots. You do pop-up dinners where you can, like the Bori Kitchen, you do pop-up dinners where you can actually try it out to customers, and if they like it, then you make the event. Second thing that I want you all to remember is the evolution of ice. Think of the evolution of ice. And remember to embrace technologies because they will only make you stronger. The great thing about the ice story is that no incumbent from the previous generation actually made it to the next. No ice harvester started an ice factory. No ice factory entrepreneur actually started a freezer. They refused to accept the technological shifts that were happening, and they eventually died out. All of us are in a position right now where there's so much happening in the food space. There's so much happening in terms of consumers and in terms of capital being invested. The third story is called It's the Quality Stupid. How many of you guys know this slogan? Yeah, it's actually so the original version of the slogan is "It's the economy stupid," and it was the campaign slogan for Bill Clinton when he first won the presidential election. And so where where the slogan came from is George Bush the first was running, and all the campaign managers going through all the campaign theory textbooks said, look, you have to talk about gun control and abortion and war and this and that. And the Bill Clinton campaign said, actually, you know what? When people are choosing governments, all they really care about are their jobs. It's the economy, stupid. Why am I talking about it here? It's really easy when you're starting any food enterprise, but particularly a food enterprise, and particularly if you're not from the industry, really, really easy to get overwhelmed. I mean, we just sat through 2 hours of listening to all of the things that we need to worry about other than the food. He's absolutely right. They're all super critical to success, and they all need to be done by you. And if you're a chef, if you're getting into this because of the passion that you have for food, suddenly you're sitting there in front of a P&L with like 5 people waiting for interviews, and you're like, what the hell? And it's really easy in that moment to forget that at the end of the day, if the quality of food isn't up there, nothing else you've done matters. The quality of the food is something which is really, really easy to forget, but that's the easiest way to begin the end. And it's not just commercial. It is commercial. I'll get to commercial in a second. But it's not just commercial. There's actually a moral reason for us to remember this point about the quality of food. Okay, so how many of you guys have seen this Jamie Oliver TED Talk? Oh, come on. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, yeah, okay, fine. Okay, so this 20-minute video is probably what got me here. Jamie Oliver makes this case really well. Let's talk about life expectancy. Life expectancy right now is going up like this, right? Our grandparents are living longer than our great-grandparents. Our parents are living longer than our grandparents. We are living longer than our parents. Right? Yeah? Agreed? Yeah? Not if you agree? Yeah? Okay. Who knows what new research coming out of the US is saying is going to happen to the next generation? Not us, we're cool. What's going to happen to our kids? Who knows? Life expectancy. It's coming down. Leading causes of death? Is it homicide? No. Is it terrorism? Communal violence? Lifestyle diseases. Heart disease. Diabetes. Strokes. Cancer. Lifestyle diseases that are directly related to the food that we eat. Ravi made a really powerful statement while he was speaking. He said, we are actually killing ourselves with our food. Jamie Oliver speaks about this really well. We really need to start thinking more holistically about the quality of food that we're eating. This is the traditional value curve that restaurants have followed. Price on one axis, quality of produce and hygiene control on the other axis, right? This is the traditional value curve. You have street food, low price, low quality of produce and hygiene control. Fast food, slightly more expensive, but slightly better quality of produce and hygiene control. I don't know about quality of produce. I would argue quality of hygiene control is better, maybe not the quality of produce. Then you've got casual dining restaurants, and then you've got hotels, right? This is the traditional value curve. Do you guys see the problem with this? Do you guys see the problem with this? This is the problem right here. Good quality is expensive. Good quality is expensive. Good food has become a luxury. When did good food become a luxury? Good food is not a luxury. This is the traditional value curve that we have lived with for decades. For decades. Every single same-store metric you look at, you see the same thing. Every quarter, every 3 months, Chipotle and other brands like Chipotle that focus on the quality of food is going up, McDonald's is going down. Consumers are doing what consumers do best. They are voting with their wallets, they are voting with their feet, and they are telling the industry, guys, shape up. We are not going to stand for this anymore. We want good quality food. To me, as a consumer, this is like pre-entrepreneur, right? To me as a consumer, this is the single most exciting thing that's happening in the hospitality industry right now. It is the single most exciting thing. Consumers are forcing the industry to change the definition of fast food. They're forcing the industry to change the definition of fast food. What Chipotle said, it's classic, it's genius, right? What Chipotle said is I'm gonna offer consumers slightly more expensive food, but I'm going to offer exponentially better quality produce and exponentially better quality hygiene. How are we going to do that? Really simple. Think of a restaurant. There are two parts to a restaurant. It's what you call back of the house, it's what you call front of the house. Back of the house is kitchen and food production, front of the house is service. In the old model, right, the thinking was, what we do is, as we offer better quality service, we also offer better quality food, and therefore the prices are more expensive. What Chipotle said is, you know what, forget that. My kitchen, my back of the house, is going to look like a big fancy restaurant. It's going to look like the kitchen at the Taj. My front of the house is going to look like quick service. My service model is going to look like McDonald's, right? Kitchen like Taj, service like McDonald's. What do you end up with? You end up with food that is of exceptional quality. It's served in a convenient grab-and-go environment. That's what Chipotle figured out 20 years ago. Chipotle and Pret a Manger started this 20 years ago. It is now exploded into a full-blown food revolution. It's called, the investor community has now given it its own name that either means it's a bubble or it's here to stay. I'm not sure which one. I think it's here to stay. It's called fast casual. We're beginning to see this in India as well. Of course, you know, Kaboom, the restaurant app, the chain of quick service restaurants that I've opened does this. There are others that are beginning to do this as well. I mean, you cannot compromise on quality. This is the future. There's a commercial reason, there's a moral reason. All because there's so much experimentation happening in this area right now. So it's super easy to do it if that's what you want to do. And don't just take my word for it. Since you guys are all chefs, what we thought would be really fun is we'll have Chef Ashish who come up. So I'll just call Chef Ashish to the stage right now. Chef Ashish will come up and show you how to make a dish that's available at Kaboom. It's the Rucola Salad. And he's going to show you how easy it is. And we're going to tell you where to buy all the produce from. And so, you know, I'll just let Chef Ashish show you for 5 minutes how to make the Rucola Salad, and then we'll take it out. It's dead simple. You can see it just now. And it tastes awesome.
It's a simple salad. It's not a very big difficult task. What you have to do, just remove some stems from the leaves. Select some good leaves of the rucola. Put it in bowl. Some cherry tomatoes. And for the dressing, we need olive oil, just 5-10 ml olive oil, some lime juice, the equal quantity of lime juice. We have to mix it. Add some salt and pepper, pinch of salt and pinch of pepper. Just spread them. Just mix it naturally, toss it naturally. For garnishing, just put some parmesan shells. Just your salad is ready.
So it's actually certified to be organic, fantastic, and you put it together in 5 minutes. Super simple, because you're doing this for the love of food. You're going to serve good quality, and there are consumers that are now going towards this, and there's an ecosystem to support it, right? That's the situation all of you in the room are in right now. So what do? We sit and plan, and spend 6 months getting all your licenses, working on your business plan, hiring your team, coming up with the right marketing strategy. Is that what we do? Is that what we spend the next 6 months? You could. That's what you would do in the old model. Right now, I think you need to just follow the famous song. Don't worry, be snappy. You know, I don't know what this photo has anything to do with the presentation, but I just love the picture, so I put it up there. You know, there is real merit in planning everything to the T, and as many of us who are career changers, there's this inherent risk of failure. So you kind of feel that you have to justify, and forget to anyone else, but to yourself, that you've left a successful career to do something and you've done it well. I mean, there is that fear, and it's a fear that I can relate to all too closely. But sometimes the right thing to do is to just be a little carefree. To just, in the words of Nike, just do it. Brands. We have Kaboom and we have an artisanal ice cream brand called Sucre de Terre. Kaboom, we spent 18 months before we launched, sorting out our supply chain, getting the right team, hiring the right people, training them for months, having them leave, having to hire new people, finding the right location, making sure it was licensed, then having the landlord walk away from us, then having to find another location, then having to sort out the paperwork, then having to get it licensed, then sorting out the marketing, and then launching. Along the line, we lost everyone that we had originally hired. We spent about 18 months doing this. It's doing really well. We've been fortunate. Consumers have responded really well to the fact that we're serving great quality food. So there's that. So that's one way. We have a second brand, Sucre de Terre. With Sucre de Terre, we didn't do any of that. We were volunteering at a pop-up at an underground supper club called the Secret Supper Project. I don't know how many of you guys, I've recognized one or two faces. I can't say which ones because it's a secret. But we volunteered at one of the Secret Supper projects, and we did as part of the dessert, we did an ice cream sandwich. It was just meant to be that, one dinner for 30 people, ice cream sandwich using a home ice cream maker. Everyone loved it, and then next day we got a call, and somebody told, there was a caterer who was at the dinner, and she told Kunali, you know what, I'm doing a Thai dinner, and I would love to serve your ice cream sandwich. It was a Thai dinner, and our ice cream sandwich was Thai basil ice cream between 2 ginger cookies. She's like, I can't think of any better dessert. Can you please, do you think you could do that? And, Kunali and I kind of looked at each other, and we said, well, we're not really doing anything. We're just waiting for our licenses to come through. So yeah, why not? We'll write our first invoice. The team will like have a laugh, and then cool, let's do it. So we made invoice number 1 of the Funky Kitchen Company to this caterer. At that dinner, somebody said, can you do other flavors? We said, sure, we can do any flavor you want, as long as we can find the produce naturally. Oh, well, we've got ice cream, we'll do any flavor you want, so we did that. At that dinner, somebody else said, can you do some ice cream? We said, sure. We began in October. By New Year's of the same year, by the end of December, we were doing three orders a week, like large parties. And we were just sitting there going, what is going on over here? And we decided either we stop it or we do it well, we do it properly. So we decided to come up with a brand. We didn't have a brand, we didn't have anything. We had boxes that we had bought as samples of the containers we would serve our curry and rice in. We were saying, the passage of rite that they have to send us samples, and we were like, we're a little surprised that you care about us. We're just a bunch of kids like waiting around for our licenses to come through. So we were like, no, they wrote about us. The quantity of ice cream we were selling in a week, we started selling in a day. None of this would have happened if we hadn't made ice creams that day. None of this would have happened if we didn't say yes to the caterer the next day. Both, there's no right answer, or put another way, they are both right answers. If we had worried as much as we had in the beginning, we wouldn't be where we are today. The idea with Kaboom is to serve exceptional quality food and to serve it at price points that make it feasible for people to go every day, right? And where this was born out of was the fact that when I was working in London, in New York, in Paris, in Singapore, every other place that I've worked in, good food was not a luxury, right? I could go out and for £8, I could go to eat, I could go to Itsu, I could go to Pret-a-Manger, I could go to Yucca, I could go to all these great places, and I would have lots of different international cuisine and I'd be paying 10 pounds. It was a little more than McDonald's. And when we moved to India, that choice wasn't really available. There was lots of choice in the 100, 150 rupee price point. And then if I wanted, if I didn't want that, I wanted better quality produce, less oil, slightly healthier food, I would have to shoot straight up to like 700, 800 rupees and go to the Indigo Deli and the Moshe and all of that stuff that I love, but I'll spend 800 rupees every day for lunch, right? So what we said is, okay, can we offer exceptional quality food, like this food that I just showed you? Can we offer exceptional quality food that tastes great in a 200 to 400 rupee bracket? So that people can actually come every day. If you come every day, at that price, because we found that people weren't coming. We also asked people, do you want international cuisine or do you want Indian cuisine? And they were like, well, we get a lot of, we love Indian food, but we get a lot of Indian cuisine. It would be really cool to have something at this price point, which is international. And not like Indian Chinese and stuff. Like I want real, I remember this one focus group that we did, where this one customer said, I don't know how many of you can relate to this, I certainly can. He came to me and said, you know what, I'm sick of it that when he works in a multinational company, so I'm sick of it that when my colleagues come from Singapore, they look at me and say, oh, all your pasta tastes Indian. Why can't I have an Italian restaurant that I can take him to? I only want to spend 300 rupees. But why can't I take him to an Italian restaurant and give him authentic pasta? So my final piece of advice, if you don't listen to anything else I've said, and I would perhaps encourage you not to listen to anything else I've said. So my final piece of advice, and the only one thing to actually listen to, is don't worry, be snappy, the future is bright, the water is great, jump in. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.